brings new people to the party, and we certainly saw that during this primary, and not just in Ohio, but in many states, particularly in the Midwest. So I think he has the potential of being very helpful, and I think if he, again, starting tonight, talks about these issues that I talked about today in a way that directly affects Ohio families, he could not only win Ohio, he could be helpful to me and others. But look, we're running our own campaign too. As I said here, we're doing an unprecedented grassroots effort in our campaign that I'm really proud of. We're relying heavily on volunteers. We're reaching out to people in ways no campaign's ever done in Ohio. We're in the country, for that matter, and we'll continue to do that. Ensure that we win for the reasons I stated today. It's about the majority of the Senate, therefore the direction of the country. So we're all in to win the Senate.
Senator, the Democrats are basically saying that Donald Trump is running basically against a lot of the trade agreements that you either actually negotiated when you were the trade rep, or at least agreed with in principle. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, well, I strongly agree with Donald Trump on cracking down on unfair foreign imports. And as you know, I took the lead on this issue of currency manipulation, which is another place where he and I actually agree. And I got within 2 votes in the United States Senate, despite being opposed by the Obama administration, my own leadership, and the Democratic leadership of the committee. So on these trade issues, I do think we need to be tougher on China and other countries that are not playing by the rules. So I agree with him on that. Where we may have a little disagreement is on exports. The sweet spot for Ohio is to be much tougher on a level playing field and fighting back against currency manipulation, where I have taken the lead, but also expanding our exports. 1 of every 3 acres is planted for export in Ohio. Our farmers are desperate for those markets. 25% of factory jobs in Ohio are now export jobs. We want more of them. The Toledo Jeep plant sends 25% of the Wranglers overseas. We want it to be 35%, because that creates more and good paying jobs here in Ohio. And to do that, you got to knock down barriers overseas. So yeah, I agree with Donald Trump largely on his trade agenda, because it's about leveling the playing field and being tougher. And that's what I have been in my votes and in my actions. But I do believe we've also got to be expanding our exports. And this is where my opponent and I disagree.
Senator,
he is such a protectionist that he doesn't even support expanding exports. And he's also been totally hypocritical on China. He actually voted for the very MFN agreement, most favored nation agreement for China, not once but twice, that he then ran an attack against me on. That's hypocritical. And he then voted twice against sanctioning China, holding China accountable when he was in the House of Representatives for their not following the trade rules that they had to follow under that MFN agreement. So, I can point to my record, specifically what we've done. I talked about the paper workers and the steel workers and the tire workers we've helped. I talked about the recent victory we've had on 2 steel cases just a few weeks ago, thanks to my legislation, the Level the Playing Field Act. We're standing up to China and defending Ohio workers, and we'll continue to do that. Ted Strickland didn't pass a single bill when he was in the House, so he certainly didn't pass some legislation that helped. And he was, as governor, a guy who lost 350,000 jobs, took Ohio to 48th in the country in job creation. So he has no credibility in talking about Ohio jobs. It was those working families in Ohio who were hurt the worst when he was governor, thanks to his policy.
Did Ted Cruz make the senators last night not endorsing Donald Trump?
It's up to Ted Cruz. He was in the fray. I was not. He was on that debate stage, and I don't think it was a surprise to anybody. I saw some media accounts saying how surprised people were. People read the speech ahead of time, including the Trump campaign. So I think it was expected.